it's Flo, and this is my impression of a drill instructor directing a musical. Town Hut! Get those tap heels in line and let me see those jazz hands! Are you bundling your home and auto insurance through Progressive? Can you hear me through those sequins?
Bundle your home and auto through Progressive and save.
Left, 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 and step ball change.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates. Home insurance provided and serviced by other select insurers.
Blog Talk Radio.
Join us for today's episode of the Utopian Realities Slope, Save Life on Planet Earth Blog Talk Radio show, bringing you solution bearers with practical, proven, scientific ways to help you eliminate global level irradiation and extinction level threats from your body and bringing forward the means to restore and sustain global waters, air, soil, and sentient life. Welcome. Greetings. This is Lisa Wolf, your host. Welcome to the Utopian Realities from Concept to Planetary Restoration Slope, Save and Sustain Life on Planet Earth, Earth Aid, Friday Solution Bearers Forum, where we give people with real solutions and insights into global crises a platform to inform you, the listeners, about ways to address pressing problems we all face. Please join the live chat on the program page, and to ask questions or comment, phone 845-277-9359. Our guest today is Dr. Edward Norman, rejuvenation naturopath and guide to inner harmony character building. Want answers? You're about to get them. Where things are confusing to most people, they aren't to Dr. Edward Norman. Dr. Edward has had a handful of strict teachers in a few fields who taught him what health, life, and the principles of success really are. You might not like the answers. Dr. Edward says truth doesn't care if we like him or not. Truth doesn't serve humans. He only reports to God. Since we didn't invent truth and can't, since it's already been done, the only thing we can do is learn how things are supposed to work and conform in love. Life is a system, Dr. Edward tells us. The system was created, rigged from above, and isn't ever going to change. If we are going to make progress, we'd better get busy, understand how the system works, reform our awareness, operating principles, and character. He'll show you how. Dr. Edward is a mix of motivational counselor, metaphysical teacher, naturopathic physician, student of ancient disciplines from foreign countries, business consultant, and public relations expert. If you want or need to get enthused, this is the place to be. Welcome, Dr. Norman.
Hello, Lisa. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. Beautiful Friday.
It is indeed. I'm sitting here in Mount Shasta with a fantastic view.
Oh, you're so blessed. You're so blessed. So that's quite a topic, solutions to all life's problems, including spiritual, business, relationships, and health. Tell us something about yourself, how you got to be able to come to offer such profound solutions.
Well, I can't really say that I'm to blame for the situation. I give all the credit to my teachers. And it's not just this life, but past lives as well. It takes time to develop human character and human soul. It's to them that I have to be grateful for all the time that they have spent with me, because I started out just like anybody, being a soul in search of answers, and they had them. Of course, it's a little bit tough on the ego to look at the situation and have somebody, breathing down your throat and saying, okay, well, this is the way you need to look at things, and this is how life is. And it's not that they're necessarily pushy and forceful, because they're not. I probably will be to a certain extent. But the ego doesn't like to look at things from a different place. It has its own comfort zone. So it has its used tos, the way that it's used to seeing things and feeling about things. And we have the old saying that everybody likes progress, but nobody likes change. And this tends to be true of emotions. As a matter of fact, emotions are some of the slowest things to evolve, turn around, and transform, because they are so rooted in habit. As a matter of fact, they are habit. So, I've had quite a few of them in my life. I'll talk mainly, about this one, but I was a child of my parents, of course, and they came from two different sides. So I'm going to try to give our listeners a little bit of a sense of the background that I've had and who I am. My mother was a prima donna, and I do mean that literally. She was a Viking that trained herself, and she was so good that she auditioned for the New York Metropolitan Opera and was accepted, except she turned them down because she wanted to stay in Seattle. She had taught herself music. Her mother was a musician, and at the age of 5, she taught me music as well, a bit reluctantly, I must say. My father came from a different outlook. He was a son of an inventor, and his father did a great many number of things in life. He was quite a versatile fellow. And my father and the rest of our family designed our house, and they started building it right after I was born. And they did everything in the house. We didn't have outside contractors. The only thing that was done outside was to grade the land level and to pour the slab. Everything else was done by our family. So that versatility of knowing how things worked, and this includes electricity and plumbing as well. Everything about how to put this together, my father did, and the rest of the family helped him. So he had this physics kind of a background, a practical kind of a background, you could say. He was a very easygoing type person. And after we moved about half a mile away from where we were before, then he put up the machine shop in his house, as he had ever since I was about 4 years old, maybe even a little bit less. But he got a larger lathe and a few other better pieces of equipment, some stuff that he engineered. And so after I was 11, let's say, I started spending time with him in the garage, which is where the shop was. And he taught me all kinds of things about how to metalwork, and I did some plastic and woodwork because we had some contracts that called for that. We did all kinds of things in our shop, including making specialty parts for the U.S. Navy and the nuclear reactors that the submarines went with. So I had an ability to look at things from, more or less fresh standpoint, because we'd have mostly new jobs all the time, and then we had fancy ammonia compressors that are used for cold storage, specifically those in Wenatchee, where he grew up, for apples and pears and all of the things that they grow in the orchards up there. And also we had some regular vegetables that were flash frozen in 17 seconds, which they do in those factories. So I learned, he included me as part of the problem-solving practice, So he would think out loud, and he would share all of the little bits and pieces that he was thinking about with regard to, okay, do we need new tools for this? If so, how do we design those tools? What do they look like? How strong do they have to be? How long do they have to be to bore inside of a cylinder, for example? And exactly how we fit all of the parts and the pieces together to do the machining, do the work, test the tolerance, and then, oil them and package them when they were all done. So I didn't see my father do absolutely everything, but it seems that the things that he did got transferred into my psyche and my consciousness, and so I have the same approach to things. it was a very valuable education, because now I know that if you want to make something, you can, and basically I know how to make it. In many cases, I can just make them myself. So any inventing that needs to be made, I can kind of understand it. He was interested in electricity, and he hadn't spent a lot of time with that. I mean, besides electrics, of course, which he could wire anytime. But I took that a little bit further. He had a few pieces of audio gear there, and of course they were the gear that we had hooked up to speakers, and so I got very much involved with things. My mother taught me music beginning at 5, as I mentioned, and so that was kind of like a dovetail between the electronics, which were one of my father's loves that he didn't have any time for, and music, because the electronics made all of that possible. I got to look at that, and I studied that in depth. Well, there's a basic background of what it was like for me growing up. So I basically didn't need to read anything from a textbook about physics, because I knew how things worked in this, All the kinds of stuff that we did are the kinds of stuff that go together to make our modern life in terms of machines, motors, all of that kind of stuff. And then the other side, my mother's side, was the performing arts and people-pleasing and the people-dealing side. So that was my basic education, and that helped me with a lot of things. So now what I did after that was I went to broadcasting school for a day and a half and decided that these guys were just joking around, and I couldn't stand that, I had to have things that made sense. So I went up and I told these guys that I just couldn't do it, and I quit on the spot and went around looking for a job, which wasn't that easy to find in Seattle, which is the 17th market in the U.S. But I went up to Alaska, and I did radio right away, and then I did TV also, and I was the kind of guy, I had my hands on a TV camera, and I required no training whatsoever. Both of my parents, by the way, were photographers as well as mountain climbers. But I put my hands on the camera. I had been analyzing movies for, ever since I had my eyes on a TV set. And so I knew what I wanted to accomplish, just like a director would. And so I did that. And they were amazed. And I wasn't so much, because I'd been thinking about it all that time. But I just did shots and pans and things that they'd never seen before. And they couldn't believe that I'd had no training, and that was the first time I'd ever had my hands on a video camera. But I'm kind of like that with machines. So the main thing about that, again, here's background. A shaman was told to stop in the town, and so he got off the boat, and in a matter of hours, I believe, he met another friend that I was friends with. We used to have these metaphysical discussions in his landing craft in the Aurora Basin, which is Juneau's harbor. And so he came, and we'd spend from midnight to 3 in the morning just sort of batting the metaphysical ball around and playing with each other and having fun and challenging each other. And it was wonderful. It was fun. It was the kind of thing that I enjoyed. At least we were talking about real subjects and stuff that matters, or real philosophy and approaches to life. He became my personal teacher. Now, I was so raw at that moment. There was no medicine in our family, no naturopathy, no particular natural way of looking at things, unless we're talking about metals and wood and electricity, So the naturopathic way of looking at things was completely foreign to me. So he taught me how to read the labels on soup cans, and I didn't even know you were supposed to do that, And so this is literally where I started. Now, the other things with regard to philosophy, I had been looking into them really seriously. I can mention that, I was going to say that school was a little difficult for me, because I would advance 2 years every single year I was in school. So I invented algebra on my own when I was in 4th grade, symbolic logic. And I was just playing with these things and scribbling them on paper as if I knew what I was doing, And then none of that was apparent. I had an aunt who was a summa cum laude, and we talked about things. She taught me how to do square roots by hand, which was great, but I hadn't had any more education than that. So I was just sort of inventing these things as I went along. Another thing that I was inventing at my teenage years was information systems. Mostly we call this theory. I'd call it a paradigm. It's a perspective. It's a way of looking at things. And I invented systems of classification similar to the Dewey Decimal System, and I very much liked his way of trying to sort things out. This entire spectrum approach to information I liked. And then general systems theory. And for those who don't know what general systems theory is, it's a way of looking at things. Say, for example, we have a car, okay? A car has a couple of different forms of intake. It has a gasoline tank, which you fill up, and then it takes oxygen from the air, and then it has an electrical system, like our nervous system, and it has physical parts that rotate, and all of these things are quite similar to the human body. So we have an integumentary system or a skin system, and of course in a car it's just metal and it's stamped and painted and looks nice for a while, and that's okay. But we have the digestive system in the car, which is the combustion system. And our bodies, by the way, are internal combustion engines. We don't think of them that way, but I like to speak about this all the time to try to draw the parallels that are there and exist. Well, we can get into more details, but basically a car and a human body and many other whole systems, especially the ones that are movable, are very similar. And now, of course, we have some people that are developing robots, to think a little bit for themselves and make judgments, avoid obstacles. We have the Google car, which roams all over the place, and many of those are unmanned. So we're making some progress in trying to understand what systems really are, and intelligent, motivating systems are, like fancy animals, animals with some kind of a brain. Well, so I was looking for something. I was born a little bit differently. I was going to explain for everyone, what it's like to be born in this kind of a situation where you can invent almost everything, and you do invent things, and you read through libraries just like they're a breakfast snack, I got so bored in school, as I was saying, that high school was horrible for me. The first days of high school, I was sitting down in shop class, actually, which was our home class at the beginning, and I was figuring, how do I get through 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade? How can I possibly manage this? Well, I went to school a bit early. I'm from 6th grade on. My father had asked me at the end of 5th grade if I wanted to be in a private school, and I said yes. And it was good. 6th grade, of course, it was the usual kind of schooling, and then 7th grade started, and then that was kind of interesting for a while, because then we went from class to class to class. We didn't just sit in one place all day with recess breaks, And so at the beginning, 7th and 8th, okay, that was a little bit mildly interesting, and there were still some things I could sort of participate at in the general level. But when it came to 9th, then things started looking kind of rough. My father would, many times, I had a choice. He could take me to school, which was half a mile away, or I could just simply bicycle uphill straight, and maybe it was 50-50 or something, so I'd get to school an hour earlier. And I just sit there. If there were other books I hadn't read, which, I read the general library the first few years, but I also loved the encyclopedias. So I'd sit with the encyclopedias, and I'd study them, and I'd go through the various different ones, and I'd cross-compare perhaps on particular subjects. Then we had a copy of Webster's second dictionary, which is fantastic, and is still probably my most loved English dictionary, as it is for many authors and speakers. And just loved those things. It was a corner of the room that I sat in a lot. And I taught myself many other subjects straight out of the books. And I'm going to be speaking about this in a little bit, about the difference between book learning and human learning. The book learning was certainly interesting, but it's nowhere near as good as human learning. So I was I was church organist for 2+ years. For a while, we had a Pentecostal church. So, for those of you who have strong religious inclinations, or perhaps even verging on the Pentecostal side, we were actually doing miracles or having miracles happening in front of us. And the difference between this church and a lot of other churches is that the pastor came from Fort St. John in northern Canada, and he was grounded in balance, and he was a carpenter, and he held everything together. This is not true of a lot of the other churches I know, and I haven't seen a great number of them. But what I have seen indicates that his and his family's background kept it solid, kept it in one piece, and they weren't flying off the handle, which is what I see a lot. So I had that opportunity, but as in my Bible I had read through 7 times, and I had highlighted everything in color with color pencils, and I had used my orange-barreled fine-point Bic pen, and I had drawn cross-references everywhere. It was one of the most elaborate Bibles, probably the most elaborate Bibles you could ever see, if you could see it. So I had looked at this matter because this was a so-called spiritual material to look at. But, you see, what was driving me was this connection that I had inside. And as soon as I woke up in my crib, I had this connection. So we hear these stories about people in India that kind of grow up this way, of remembering their past lives and what have you. But I was looking at the people around me playing a drama, and I can still do it today, you know. They're playing a drama. They're looking from the inside of their ego shell. And I looked at this for one day, and I said, well, this is interesting. You know, they're not really speaking the truth to each other, and they're not really explaining anything. They wouldn't even be honest if they were thirsty or they were hungry. They would always analyze what result their statement would have before they put it out, you know. And so they were sort of kowtowing to each other. And not that my father did this necessarily. He was a different kind of a creature. He was the last child of his family. So he was pampered, and he had an easy life, and he didn't really even know what emotions were in the sense that other people did. He was just happy and content, you know. He was a different kind of a breed of person, and an engineer's mind, you know. But everybody else wasn't being particularly honest with each other, and that's a gross understatement. So I saw this going on, and okay, so I wake up the next day, you know, and I'm looking at everybody, and of course, at the beginning, it's mostly just my mother and my grandmother and grandfather. That was also there. And I'm seeing these interactions, and I'm saying, now, wait a minute, I can understand playing a role for a day, because if you play a role for a day, you can see what the consequences of playing that role are, and then you can step back and analyze it and see what role you want to play the next day. That kind of thinking I could understand. But the whole thing of is locking yourself into an ego mindset and adopting a particular role and being absolutely and utterly inflexible in that for 2 days in a row was kind of beyond me. So my thinking is, what? Did they learn anything the first day? Well, 3rd day comes around. I'm seeing the same thing, no change, and I'm thinking, this is probably not going anywhere. This is the way that it is. So at the end of a week, I had given up, and I was doing a whole lot of telepathy experiments in the first month, trying to see if I can get my mother to respond to me, and she didn't. There was only one time when things happened more or less on time, and that wasn't repeatable. So we can't call it science, right? So I think about 98 experiments, if I get the number right. That's about how many I did, and there was no results from anybody essentially, except that one minor time that was more or less on time when I was asking for something. So I learned later that what has happened is that in the human being, we have a brain and we have a heart. If we hook those two things up together, we can have intuition and we can have telepathy. But if we don't put those two things together, then we don't. We're severed in various different departments. And it's what I like to call the mata realism, or the excessive indulgence in consciousness at the physical reality, that brings about a disconnect. Because with the mata realism comes an immersion in the sensory world. And the physical world is not the only world that's sensory. The bottom three worlds are extremely sensory. But when we get involved with them, then our intelligence spreads out in a horizontal fashion. And we don't have any intelligence left to go upwards, up to the level of what I would call insight. So we're stuck at this level, and then we believe what everybody else is saying at this level, and they're just as dumb, if not more so, than we are. And, of course, we're absolutely convinced of that because we have ego. And then we treat everybody else in the same fashion, thinking that we have the most divine right to be inside the series of shells that we have inside our ego and call this reality from our life. I was just looking on the web a few hours ago, and I was seeing that there were some people that were talking about mind bending. And what it means is that if we change our perspective, and these are my words on it, if we change our perspective with respect to the physical reality or any reality that we're looking at, then we're able to change the level at which we're being involved, and most people would say at the level at which we are creating, okay? Now, there's a lot of people that like to say that we are the sole creator of our universe. Well, that's not exactly true, because we don't have the conscious memory of creating any one of the worlds, of which the physical world is the most tiny, as huge as it is. But we're participants. So I don't say that we create everything to the extent that we are souls surrounded by sheaths, of which the human body is the last one, that navigate through different experiences in the physical world, in the emotional world, and the others, then yes, we do move around, and we are creating our own experience by virtue of our perspectives and our stack of karmic programming that we've built up. All right. Now, perhaps we've come to a breaking point, Lisa. Do you have anything that you want to do at this moment?
Well, we could take a break and listen to a piece of music. We don't have any callers coming in right now. If you would like, we can do that.
Okay, let's do that for a minute or so.
All right. Listeners, we'll be right back after a piece of music from Anton Mizrak called Desert Bloom. Welcome back, listeners. We're here with Dr. Edward Norman talking on solutions to all life's problems, including spiritual, business, relationships, and health. Welcome back, Dr. Edward.
Hi. I wanted to make a comment about Anton. I am actually about 1 mile away from Anton's house as the crow flies. And he's been a big student of India. He's traveled to India many times. And he was also a big student of Sanskrit for many, many years. Well, I'm going to quickly go through another few things, and we can take this the rest of this quarter segment to explain a little bit more background. the shaman got me interested in a whole lot more new things. Shortly after that, I met Dr. John Raymond Christopher. Shortly after that, I began to do original medical research at the University of Washington Health Sciences. And then I was a part of Bastyr University, and I studied from them naturopathy many years. Schools are fine. Medical school was a bit boring from the standpoint that they were looking into drugs, and I just couldn't do that, so I couldn't go through with that. Bastyr University was okay, and there were a lot of practical things that were learned there, but they were nothing like the stuff that I learned from Dr. John Raymond Christopher. And if we have older members of our audience, they've probably gone through and at least met Dr. Christopher once, if they were in the health field, because after 1973, then he began touring around the U.S., and every week he would be in another city. And he was a remarkable white-haired and thinner than Walt Disney, but he always reminded me of Walt Disney. And he was a Mormon and very religious, and he had a lot of character. And he told fantastic stories. He'd had about 35 years of medical practice at that point, and so he was able to fix just any problem. Well, let's just say any problem. He wrote a book called There Are No Incurable Diseases. He actually did live that. He didn't care if people had cancer or fibromyalgia or what they had. He would fix it, and he fixed it with the aid of herbs. So that's what he taught. He taught plants and plant substances, like, say, for example, the powdered red pepper that we know as cayenne. And so I began to experiment with some of these things immediately after meeting him. It was a miracle that I met him, and a miracle I met a few other people too. But he had the largest name as a naturopath, maybe he still does, in the world. And that's because he just went on the road and he became public, and he explained his perspective and what he was able to do. So he didn't hold back. He was wonderful. So we had Bastyr University in my original programming at University of Washington. I taught myself to programming 2 weeks, and that was a lot of fun for a couple of years. And shortly after that, then I met Dr. Robert Edwin Svoboda, that didn't have a book to his name at that point. But he was friends with Yogi Bhajan, and so was I, and started to teach up at Yogi Bhajan's ashram. So I got to know him, and thereafter he was working on his books, published the first one, and he still kept going. There were some backgrounds he didn't have, like, say, for example, astrology, which Hippocrates requires every doctor to have studied if they're going to become a physician, and he didn't know that. But he's getting into it. He's got a teacher, and he explains that in his book. So he has a whole shelf full of them now. But I can tell you that in person, this man is just absolutely incredible. He's an incredible teacher. The books don't do the man justice, really, when it comes to personal teaching. Okay, so it was my introduction to Ayurveda. And from cosmology, cosmogony, fifth element theory, 5-element theory, and on up. He was absolutely fantastic, and so he's got a fairly big today. It took a number of years, nearly 20 years, and then I found myself over in Sweden, and I found myself learning from a man who was essentially a nobody, a very quiet guy. He was a student, however, of Dr. Benno Svensson, who was one of the biggest names in natural health in Sweden for years of his life. He lived in north-central Sweden. Well, let's just say central Sweden, because Sweden actually goes very, very far north. So I learned from Benno. Benno was a student of Dr. Randolph Stone. Now, some of you folks might be familiar with that, but we have this discipline called craniosacral therapy, which is a non-invasive balancing system that balances the spine between the cranium and the sacrum. And it's very light, very easy to do, and can work wonders and miracles. Well, Dr. Randolph Stone invented that first, and then after that, he invented polarity therapy and the diet and the yoga. So my friend was an inventor, still is, And he became my main teacher, and I can give him the credit for my personality changing, my perspective changing, and my character changing. So that's why I call my practice in part character building, because that's what he did for me. It's a matter of perspectives, and we'll get into that shortly. Dr. Randolph Stone was just amazing, and I want to recommend one of his books. This is a book for everybody. It's called Health Building, The Conscious Art of Living Well. You can pick it up on Amazon. It's got primarily a purple cover with some gold stuff, gold ring in the middle, and you can identify it that way. But that's Randolph Stone. He was originally born in Austria as Rudolf Bauch. So if you see the name, don't get confused. It's the same person. He adopted his wife because her last name was Stone, and she was an RN, if I remember correctly, and she had the opinion that he should make himself a little bit more accessible to the general public by giving him a name that they could relate to a little bit better than something that sounded German. So he did, and then he became known by that name, as he is known by most people now. All right, I can't say enough things about Dr. Stone. Now, Dr. Stone had 7 different doctor's degrees, another 3 certifications, including that of midwifery, and he practiced in the state of Illinois for 35-plus years, and he, like me, was an avid student. So he studied everything he could about nature, about health, and about mysticism, about spirituality, about the saints. Many people wanted him to be the president or leader of their group, and he just said no, because it didn't have what he was looking for. He was driven by something inside. So he kept going, and eventually he did find what he was looking for, and curiously enough, it was exactly the same thing that I had been looking for many years, since 1974, actually, by name. And I can't name this because these folks want to remain quiet. I'm laughing because it's a funny thing. Over in India, these folks are fairly well known, but even so, we're not necessarily allowed to give out this information. There are millions of followers, and that's enough of a strain on the whole system already, right? So we only want the people who are really serious about moving beyond the levels that they're at, and that includes the physical, the astral, emotional, social, religious, and the causal, ethical, scientific planes, you know. If they're ready to move past those planes, then perhaps true mysticism, which is the path of the saints, would be a good thing to follow. But Randolph eventually found what he was looking for, and when I met my teacher in Sweden, I had one look at his library, and I knew who he was. So instantly, I want to borrow some of those books. You know, I've been looking for this stuff for a long time. So it was good. We formed a fast connection, and that developed over time. And he is a wonderful, strict character, I guess I would say, very firm in his understandings and character and belief and a knowledge of karma. And he doesn't step outside that. And this is a wonderful perspective to have, and this is what I would like to encourage in all of you, because it becomes a platform, like a rocket platform, for example, that you can blast off from. Now, without this structure and without this support and without the help of another human being actually doing it, I want to say it's going to be impossible. And you know, I do that. I say this as a man who has studied libraries full of books. You know, in some ways you could think of me and you could say, okay, I'm a self-made man. Yeah, okay, perhaps. But on the other hand, I can tell you that what I learned from my doctor teachers is far and away better that you can find in any book, unless it's to be one of their books. You know. So Randolph Stone's Health Building, everybody can take advantage of. What I do in terms of diet exceeds what Randolph Stone did. I have a system that I learned from my teacher friend in Sweden, and it is a system whereby using living foods, you can clean your body out quite literally from bone marrow to hair follicle in 6 months if you're middle-aged, providing that you can get your mind to go along with you. The mind is basically a social organism to which you have a subscription. The mind is an upside-down reflection of soul, so it's looking in the downwards worlds, and that's the way that it looks. It's also, by the way, your accountant of karma. Your mind records everything it's doing. Now, your conscious might not have access to that. As you release your attachment to the physical world and are able to float up a little bit, you see life just like we would do looking at Mount Shasta, which I've got a view of right now, you know. You get up over 14,000 feet, you get on the top of a mountain, and you can see the whole perspective around you, you know. You can see all of the paths that you might have taken to get up that mountain. On a clear day, we have a little bit of dust and haze in the air, but on a clear day, you can actually see the ocean from the top of Mount Shasta. And, of course, you can see far inland and then north and south as well. So the further that you get up a mountain of realization, you could say, or perspective, then the closer that you get to the truth. And at the bottom, you could say, oh, well, there's many paths to God. Are there? Well, sure. There are easy paths and there are difficult paths. There are paths that you can go up straight away, and there are other paths that you have to hop over a whole lot of crevasses or just scrape over a whole lot of rock, and that is just a pain. It can be so much of a pain that if you choose the absolute wrong route, you could take like nearly a week to get to the top of a mountain, right? And in our physical life, actually, we only have a moment. We have a very brief moment to make some progress. Now, I've basically told you what my background in health has been and how I came about it. But mostly with regard to my personal teacher, I'm going to be speaking now about some of the things that he taught me. So now we get into the solution to life's problems, okay? How can we properly deal with things in life? How do we know how to do the right thing? What is the right thing? At this level, this is a relatively low level. And, of course, I'm saying that I believe in reincarnation. Well, it's not a belief. I'm part of it, right? I know it. I see it. It's obvious, actually. You can read a book that was written by Plato, which is called The Last Days of Socrates. And I can recommend this to anyone. You know, we remember some of the old Greek people as philosophers. For example, let's talk about Aristotle, Socrates, Pythagoras, Plato. We remember them as logicians, as philosophers perhaps, but that's not the real reason we remember them. The reason that they had and still have so much light and they are still a glowing image for us is because they were actually saints. Not just your run-of-the-mill saint or sadhu, no. These were actually the real thing, what I would characterize as a true mystic saint. What this means is that they were connected at the highest level. So, for our listeners, in terms of psychology and the worlds in which we live, let me explain. At the highest level, we could say this is a level beyond, let's call it eternity. A lot of people speak in that terms. We can call it that. But some people call it the plane of soul. This is the plane before time was even created, because time, when you get right down to it, was a sun of a big glowing ball of light, similar to our sun here, that is just radiating off particles. And we individually are each one of those particles. We are a spark, and these sparks we call souls. So we have a certain level of development, and this is based on the effort that we put into superseding or transcending or overcoming the low level of realities that we get born into on the lower levels. So we have 5 lower levels. Theosophy talks about this, and a lot of other people do. We don't have 7 lower levels. We have 5. A lot of people get confused. By the way, we don't have 7 chakras either. We have 6. The Bible says this very clearly when they say the number is 666. And what they are referring to actually is the 6 chakras that are present on the 3 lower planes. So we don't have 7 chakras. That's a New Age invention. It's the whole idea that we can be creative, you know. So the highest
Dr.
chakra
Edward,
is the... Yes?
I wanted to let you know that Gary Gosselin has joined us. He's on the line, just so you know.
Oh, right. We're getting close to that time. Okay. Then
yes.
Thank you, Lisa. Now, one of the things that we're going to be very quickly trying to wrap up here in this last hour and 15 minutes or so is we're going to be discussing some various different kinds of solutions. What I'm asking Gary to expound for us is a little bit about the nature of money, okay? What is money? Money is value, right? It's a way that we exchange value with each other in some kind of a known form, okay? So we have either, in the old days, this was done by metal. So we had silver and gold, which are the world's true currencies. And they were generally stamped with the head of somebody, like Caesar in the old days, you know. And this meant that this was an imprint of Caesar, was guaranteed by Caesar to be the real thing. You had the head on one side, and on the other side, you had the denomination and maybe a picture, some sort of a representation of the state that we were talking about. You know, on the back of a penny, for example, we have the Lincoln Memorial, right?
Right.
Okay. So, talking about values, lots of different kinds of values. Now, we have another system, and I'll just lead into this real briefly. If we have true value, in other words, if we're trading an ounce of gold, and that ounce of gold is worth so much values or services, because there's a limited supply of gold and a somewhat limited supply of silver, although we keep mining these things, they're known as precious metals, and we're able to trade them at a realistic value, a stable value. We have another thing that's called paper money, and paper money is a note. It's actually a bank note. It's a check. And this check claims that it's worth something or other. In the old days, when the U.S. issued its notes, or its bills, as we call them in the U.S., dollars, we call them sometimes. And dollar, by the way, is a Swedish word that means currency. That's where that came from. A lot of other things that Swedish invented. I have Swedish heritage, so I'm a little familiar with this. It's paper, has serial numbers on it, it has a whole bunch of fancy stuff, it's got threads running through it, and okay, so it looks fancy, but in the old days it actually said on it that this bill is backed by gold and redeemable by gold, so you take it to a United States Treasury and you say, I want my money, and they would give you gold. Now, the piece of paper is not the money. It's a representative of the money. A whole lot of things happened with regard to our ancient history, but this stopped becoming true at a point because the United States made some loans from international merchant bankers and then defaulted on that. And then they took over and they demanded their due. And they engineered the whole thing, actually, and they wanted it to happen that way. But at that point, then, our currency no longer says backed with anything at all. You know, it just says it's legal tender, which, by the way, is something different than a lawful tender. We can get into that at some other time. But it says it's legal tender, which means it's authorized by the corporational government that we have now, the United States Corporation. Okay, so now it says on it, in God we trust. But the trusting that we're doing is pure faith. So we're not necessarily going to go anywhere with that at all. So in the 2 minutes that remain before Gary comes on, I want to point out that the paper that we're using today is fictitious. It's fictitious money. Now, this type of money is also called war script. The reason it's called war script is because it was originally used as a sort of a bond, you might say, although it wasn't backed by anything in particular, to fund wars. And that's exactly, actually, what our United States currency does now. It's made for that purpose. And if we take a penny, or if we take a nickel, or if we take a dime, whatever it is, it's not worth what it says it's worth. In other words, it's not real metal. It is a penny is worth a true fraction of even what a penny is. It's mostly zinc, plus a few other covers and copper clad. So basically, we have a sham, or we have a covering on what we're doing, and but it's not really the real thing. So we're talking about values, and Gary, if you're ready, let's go ahead on this now, and we can explain a little bit about our value systems and a few things that we can do with respect to shoring up our underpinning in life and our financial underpinning, our growth and our future. And one way that we can protect our families and provide for their stable future, because gold and silver are stable, whereas paper money can be devalued and is being devalued around the world in many different countries all the time.
Welcome,
well, thank
Gary.
you, Dr. Edward. Yes, thank you, Lisa and Dr. Edward. It's a privilege to be with you today, and I'm excited about sharing a little bit as an extension of what you've already started to discuss. You know, an interesting thing about the word economy, the word economy actually means rules of the house. That's the definition of the word economy. We hear a lot of talk today about the world economy, and we all know where that's going. It's pretty obvious. But there's a lot of people on this planet that have discovered the joy of realizing that there is more than the world economy, that you can actually create your own economy. And that's what we're doing with the Foundation of Gold. And you did so very well already, Dr. Edward, of explaining differences between fiat currency and precious metals. Gold has always been the true money in the real economy, in a solid economy that works and that sustains itself. And I want to start out by reading a Jefferson, which I think are very relevant to this. The first one is, paper is poverty. It is the ghost of money, not money itself. And that's exactly what Thomas Jefferson said, word for word. He was very astute in this area, as well as all of our founding fathers. They understood the conspiracy and corruption of a economy that had literally bankrupted Europe and created two classes of people, the super rich, or the lords, if you will, and those that had nothing. And they came to this country, many of our founding fathers and many of the pioneers, with a vision, a dream to start a better way of living, and they did. And we know that Thomas Jefferson was one of those people. And a second quote that he had that I think is so astute, and it is so relevant to the history of what's happened and also to where we are today. It's almost spine-tingling and chilling prophecy when you read this and realize that everything that he predicted, that he warned us against, it actually happened. And we missed it. Somehow we missed this as a people in this nation. We missed his warning, and we missed the urgency and the passion by which he said this. I literally almost get tears in my eyes most of the time when I read this. I get a little choked up because it's so powerful of what he actually said. And I'm going to read this, and I quote exactly word for word by Thomas Jefferson. The privately owned central bank is an institution of the most deadly hostility existing against the principles and the form of our Constitution. I am an enemy to all banks creating fiat currency and notes for anything that is not backed by gold or silver. I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people allow private banks to control the issuance of their currency, first by inflation and then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up all around them will deprive the people of all their property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers have conquered. The issuance and power of currency should be taken from the private central bank and restored to the people to whom it properly belongs. I think every American should read that quote and ask themselves, well, what was he really saying here? I should know what this means because it's such a powerful statement. And literally when we read this, we realize it all happened. What he warned us against so passionately and so eloquently, so clearly with such great wisdom, it all happened in this country. So now we fast forward to this year, and we realize that he said that the people would wake up homeless, that the American people would allow private banks to control the issuance of their currency, first by inflation and deflation. The banks and corporations that would grow up around them would deprive the people of all their property we look at our situation today. The average American has no net worth. They're deep in debt, and they don't even know why. They don't have a vision or an understanding of why this happened. And they're struggling. They're working 10,000 times harder than any person should have to work just for survival. Families are being broke up because of this. Dreams are being shattered. But the good news is there's a people out there that have banded together and saying we've got a solution. And we call this solution Karatbars Gold. It's a way to create your own economy. It's a way for the average person in America or anywhere around the world in 123 countries to acquire currency-grade gold and to begin to create their own economy, to have a way to protect their wealth that no one can steal from them, and to stop the loss that they have of inflation. Now, the statistics show, and even if you look at the Federal Reserve website, it shows that the dollar has lost 98% of its value since it was issued. And we know what that's doing to our lives today. We can see the effects of it. But if you look at, as an example, gold, if you had $100,000 in fiat currency of U.S. dollars in 1932, at that time it was worth the same amount in gold. It was worth $100,000 in gold. But let's fast forward to 2016. That same $100,000 in fiat currency of U.S. dollars is now worth $2,000. $2,000. Whereas,
Wow.
if you kept that $100,000 in gold from 1932, you would have had $4.5 million. Now, somebody stole all that money, and we know who it is. Those of us that are studying, I recommend that you guys, if you're not fully versed in this subject, just go online and begin to Google the Rothschild family. An interesting thing about them, they call themselves the House of Rothschild, and what does the word economy mean? It means the rules of the house. You see, we're playing by the rules of the House of the Rothschild. They created the world economy over 300 years ago. They created it with the purpose of world domination. It's all about the New World Order. They created the world economy as a weapon, and they're using it against us. They're waging financial warfare against us, and they're doing it on purpose, and they've seized governments all around the world through debt, through a financial system of debt and slavery that's impossible to get out of because it was created that way. You see, you can't fix something when the intention of something is evil. You can't fix it unless you overthrow it or you bypass it, and that's what we're doing here. Wise people throughout history have realized that when the system is hopelessly evil, it's based on conspiracy and it's based on a wrong intention. You have to bypass the system or you have to overthrow it. So people have been bypassing the system all throughout history. That's, in fact, how this country got created in the beginning. And so we want to offer people today hope. Karatbars is started by a visionary. His name is Harold Seitz. And he worked in the financial industry. He did pensions for large corporations, but he became very wealthy in doing this. But he discovered that it was a win-lose game, that as he started to study what was happening after several years, he realized that the company issuing the pensions was winning, and himself, he was winning. He was being paid nicely. The companies were losing. The individuals that had the pensions, they were all losing because the pensions were not growing in value. They were going down. And he said, this is a win-lose game. I don't like this. I don't want to be part of this anymore. So he began to study. And he's a very wise, astute businessman, and he discovered gold is the ultimate money. It is the true form of money. And guess what? Less than 1% of the population of the world has any gold. What an opportunity. I'm going to bring gold to everyone around the world. I'm going to bring affordable, spendable gold. And he did that. He worked on this project for several years of research and development, and then 6 years ago he launched Karatbars. It's been one of the great success stories of our time. Karatbars is debt-free. It's still owned by one individual, Mr. Harold Seitz. It's located in Stuttgart, Germany. And he set up Karatbars under international bullion law, which gives you a level of privacy that's not available in any other way. And he made gold available to the masses all around the world. And the first thing that we do in Karatbars is we offer a team. Now, I want to read to you 7 benefits that you get in joining the Karatbars team, because this is quite extraordinary what we're doing here. The first benefit is the team. You will become part of a team that will stand by you and educate you in all the different areas that will help you with your financial future. And we give you the true education about money. And as a side to that, I would like to offer you one of the resources that we use very much in our team. It's called The Hidden Secrets of Money. It's by Mike Maloney, who is a partner of Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this will educate you probably better than anything I've ever seen if you're not educated in the area of the conspiracy and the evils of fiat currency. It will show you how it got started and who's behind it. And it's a 5-part series. It's about 2.5 hours long. You can Google it and you'll find it right there, The Hidden Secrets of Money, Mike Maloney. And I recommend that you study that, because it'll really give you the knowledge that you need. And that's part of what we do in Karatbars. We give you a team that will support you to create your own economy, to go for the vision and the dreams that you have, which, guess what? We all know everybody's vision requires a provision. It requires some sort of wealth and resources, and that's what we have here. We have a way to fuel people's vision through a provision, through true money. The second thing that you'll get in our package with Karatbars is you get the truth about money, cutting-edge, free financial education, and incredible mentorship. Our senior partner who we work with, he's a retired banker. He also was like Harold. He discovered the crisis and the conspiracy that happened through fiat currency. He found Karatbars, and he launched this about 2.5 years ago, and he's got over 150,000 people in his organization. In Karatbars, he's been able to help one of the top earners in the world, and he works with us daily. And you will have access to this gentleman as part of our team as well. The third thing you get with Karatbars is you get true gold savings. It's currency-grade gold. It's 24 karat, 999.9% pure. It is an ideal, secure, protected wealth insurance. It's affordable. It's spendable. It's the highest quality. It's private. Karatbars ships gold into the United States with no Social Security number attached to it. So you have an untraceable personal gold account that's offshore. It's also willable. Any gold you have in storage, which is free at Karatbars, that's part of your free affiliate account that you receive, you will have free storage. They literally set up an account number with a vault for you there, and they'll store your gold for free, and you can ship it out in increments as you would like to. And you can also will any income that you would receive through Karatbars, because we have an excellent referral program that allows you to get free gold through our system just by educating others and helping them to save in gold also. And what we have here is an extra stream of leverage, escalating residual income that's willable, that you can pass on to your next generation if you like. So we have a way to create your own economy here. And it's very simple. We're not buying anything in Karatbars gold. We're simply exchanging a depreciating fiat currency into solid gold currency that we hold in our hands. They ship it to you by Federal Express. In fact, Karatbars is so successful that they literally have a Federal Express divisional office right inside the Karatbars headquarters. And that's located right next to the Mercedes-Benz World Headquarters. It's in a very world-class area of Stuttgart, Germany. And this is the credibility that Karatbars has. Federal Express literally has a divisional office right in their headquarters. So you know that Federal Express only works with very credible companies. They do not ship anything around the world that is creating problems for anyone. They work with integrity. The fifth thing that you're going to receive as part of Karatbars is a unique and extraordinary financial solution that many people need. They're facing a crisis. They don't have a solution. We have a good one for them, and we have the team to come alongside them and help them. And last but not least, you also receive the joy of hope and opportunity, of creating a lifestyle freedom for yourself, your family, and others you care about all around you. And you look at our world today, isn't that one of the most important things that people need? They need hope and opportunity. And the word hope I know Edward mentioned the Bible earlier. The biblical definition of hope means confident expectation. It means you believe something good is going to happen, and that's exactly what's happening. There's over 500,000 people around the world that have discovered the joy of Karatbars Gold already, and this is only the beginning. We're just a 6-year-old company. We're just barely scratching the surface. This is a true ground-level opportunity for anyone that wants to help people, but it's one of those opportunities that's 6 years old, debt-free, and it's already fully established. You have everything you need here with the system, the resources, the name. Everybody understands gold is good. You don't have to explain it. And less than 1% of the population has any gold. So, wow, what an incredible opportunity we have. And that's one of the most important things we offer people. We offer them hope, a confident expectation that something good is going to happen because you're part of this team, because you're part of a system. You're part of creating your own economy through gold in a way that is completely unique. Now, when you look at those benefits that I just mentioned, there's no other company on the planet that offers that package of benefits right now. Oh, you can get gold from many different sources, absolutely. But you can't get those 6 benefits I just mentioned in a package. If you're going to get gold from anyone else, you're going to get just gold. You're not going to get the team. You're not going to get the free education. You're not going to have the extra income that you could earn. And you're not going to be part of this movement where you can literally go out and help other people to get out of the situation they're in through creating their own economy. So we truly have a category-creating gold program here, and we're just really excited to share it with people. And the beauty of it is you can get started today. You can get a Karatbars affiliate account absolutely free, and I know Lisa and Dr. Edward will share with you how to do that. And you can be part of this team, and you will be on the phones with us. You'll be meeting with us personally if you like, if you're in different areas where we're operating. We travel around also. We do meetings. You will be part of a team of people that will help you to start a way to create your own economy through gold. And it's that easy to get started. And as I said, you don't even have to put Social Security numbers on your account. It's private. You don't even have to enter credit card numbers when you start. You're going to get a free affiliate account. You're going to get a free website. You're going to learn about everything that's available to you in Karatbars Gold, and then we're going to help you. You tell us, this is what I want to do with gold in my life. This is what I want to do to help some of my friends and family to enjoy these benefits, and you'll have our support and our system behind you to help you to do that. So I just want to thank you, Dr. Edward, and Lisa, for this opportunity to share this today. And if there's any questions that are coming in, I'd be happy to answer those right now as well.
I don't see any. I want to let listeners know that Gary will be our guest on the show for a full 2 hours, I hope with Royal Solomon on Saturday, August 6th from 12 to 2. And Gary, I'm going to play the piece that you sent me and ask you to stay with us for a little bit longer. And I'm glad that Dr. Edward is with us, so we'll be right back.
Okay, that sounds
good. The gap between the rich and the poor is widening. America's middle class is slowly disappearing, and our government is $18 trillion in debt and counting. The fact is, you cannot outrun inflation with an income earned in a shrinking currency. So what can you do? The answer is surprisingly simple. Instead of living off credit or working a second job, you must learn to do what the 1% does. Create an appreciating asset that spins off passive residual income. Are you teachable, coachable, and ambitious? Are you willing to step outside your comfort zone, learn the truth about money, and start thinking outside the box you were taught to stay in? Are you willing to put in the time and effort whenever and wherever you can? What you're going to hear about is not some MLM, pie-in-the-sky opportunity to sell your neighbors something they don't even want. You don't need to sell anything. Ask yourself this question. In the times we're living in today, do you think there are any people out there who'd like to know about a legitimate business strategy to create income and earn 24-karat gold bullion in the process? If so, how many? A few? A lot. Now, can you imagine getting paid weekly in cash, gold, or a combination of both? Business leaders from around the world are calling this a brilliant and powerful system for wealth creation. Thousands of people worldwide are finding success, and so can you. It simply involves moving approximately $60 into your own free gold savings account. In essence, what you're doing is exchanging $60 of declining fiat paper money into a superior currency, 24 karat 999.9 fine LBMA gold bullion. For over 5,000 years of recorded human history, gold has been considered real money because it is a true store of value. Financial experts tell us that the most important habit demonstrated by people who accumulate great wealth is this: learning to save a portion of all the money and assets that come your way. In effect, paying yourself first. That formula has worked for centuries. And remember, if you keep doing what you're doing, you will continue to get what you've always been getting. For things to change and get better, something and/or someone has to change.
For more information, visit slope.thecarrotgroup.com. Welcome back. Dr. Edward, do you have any questions for Gary right now while we have him with us?
No, I don't have any more questions, but I want to make a statement, in fact, a couple of statements. First of all, Thomas Jefferson's birthday is not recognized. Why? The answer for that is because he made the merchant bankers a little bit angry because he didn't go along with their system, international merchant bankers.
Yep.
So he's not given the credit that he's due. There is a website I know you can go up on the internet and you can see all of Thomas Jefferson's quotes about banking, and they are absolutely fantastic. Now, I wanted to say something about that, is that our financial system, our country, our values are all a matter of engineering. And we have engineered these over the years. Our current debt collateral-based economy was engineered. It was engineered by the international merchant bankers to do their bidding. What happened was that in the 1700s, the merchant bankers saw the United States as being a very fast-developing country, growing very quickly, and they saw it as a plum that was ripe to be plucked. And they engineered that by means of finances and law or legalities, financial commercial law. So that is why we are in the debt that we are in now. I don't even know how many trillions of dollars of debt. Have you heard that, Eddie?
I'm not sure where we're at right now as far as the debt goes, but it's designed to grow, and it's artificial. And Gary, I one of the questions people always have is, well, I can always just go and buy gold, but as you said, this is something different. This is something more. This is about building a global movement. And could you talk to that again a little bit more?
Yes, I certainly will, Lisa. That's a very important question, and it really shows the value of what we have. And the package is what's important in Carrot Bars. And as I say, you get those 6 benefits that I mentioned in Carrot Bars. And the other sources of gold will not offer you those other benefits. They'll offer you only gold. And Carrot Bars has a unique system that was designed for such a time as this. As I mentioned, our owner, Harold Seitz, he's a patriot visionary. And he understands what's going on out there. He worked in the financial industry. He saw firsthand the conspiracy of it, the crisis that's been created, and that's what this company came to solve, is be a solution for people where they could literally create their own economy through gold. And so, if you look at the value of Carrot Bars, first of all, in the gold itself, we have, as I mentioned, 24 karat 999.9% pure currency grade gold. Now, that's important because that's the purest highest form of gold available on the planet today. And our gold is certified. Karatbars Gold is certified by the LBMA, which is the London Bullion Market Association. That's the world authority of gold. And the London Bullion Market Association has only chosen to certify 56 refineries in the world out of thousands. And Karatbars works with only LBMA certified refineries. We work with 3 different refineries in 3 different countries for stability. And that certification is extremely important because remember, the purpose of Karatbars Gold is number 1, long-term savings. Number 2, wealth insurance. What is wealth insurance? Wealth insurance is a way to protect a portion of your wealth so that if there is a crisis to that wealth, you haven't lost it. Now, that's not true of fiat currency. If there is a crisis and the fiat currency is tied up in the banking system or derivatives of the stock market and IRAs and retirements and pensions, people could lose all that in an instant. And it's already happened in countries like Greece where people could have €1 billion in the bank and they can only get 60 euros a day out. So Karatbars designed our system so that it's affordable gold, but it's also spendable. And so this is very significant because if you compare apples with apples, first of all, most of the gold that's out there that's being sold is not LBMA certified. So you don't really know if it's real or not because, unfortunately, there is such a thing as counterfeit gold. And you just go on the Internet and you'll see plenty of counterfeit gold examples out there. But the LBMA does not allow any counterfeiting of any of their refineries. If there's one infraction by an LBMA certified refinery of gold not being 100% pure of what it's stated to be, then they lose their certification. Karatbars has had this certification for all 6 years because they've never had an infraction because the gold is real 100% of the time. So that's really important, isn't it? Because what good does it do you to buy less expensive gold if you don't really know if it's pure or not? And there's another problem with buying gold that's not certified is that if you ever needed to spend it, if you took it to a gold dealer, you would have to have them assay that gold. They're going to look at it and they say, well, I don't know if this is real or not. It's going to cost you a minimum of $60 for me to assay this. So if you're dealing with, let's say, a 1 gram piece of gold, which is worth about $67 today, you would lose all the value of that just by having them check it if it was real or not. And if you had several of them, they'd have to check every one. So there's no spendability. There's no convertibility in gold that's not certified. If you compare apples with apples, Karatbars is definitely the best value. Now, we're not the cheapest, but there's a rule of business is that you cannot price something at a higher price for a long period of time and survive in a free market because competition will drive you out of business. Karatbars has been in business for 6 years. Why? Because we offer value. Our gold is well worth everything that you spend for it because it offers the certification. It offers a spendable system. And, the other thing that's very deceiving on the Internet is people go on there and they see different prices and they say, oh, I can get 1 gram of gold for $45. But you actually try and buy 1 gram and they'll say, oh, that's our quantity price. You got to buy 10 grams to get $45, And our 1 gram price is like $60. So it's very deceiving on the Internet. So I just encourage people, look at the value of Karatbars Gold and compare apples with apples, and let us help you through the process. Whoever introduced you to Karatbars Gold, they have connection with our leadership team, and they can get you the right information so that you can make a wise and intelligent decision about why Karatbars is a wise value, and it's the best value. And I want to also say this, that there's 4 different ways that you could actually convert Karatbars Gold back into cash if you got in a situation where you needed to, or you can convert it into goods and services. The first one is through our network. We've got hundreds of thousands of Karatbars affiliates throughout the world, and in the U.S. alone, we got about 250,000 now and growing every day. And we have a leadership network, and you can just contact the person who brought you into Karatbars. We have a connection with people. They can connect you to our leaders, and we will buy that gold from you. Our leaders are buying gold every day, and we're happy to cash you out if you needed some money, if you got in a personal crisis. That's the first way that you can spend Karatbars Gold. The second way is you can take it to what's called the K Center. Because Karatbars was created for such a time as this, our company is rolling out what we call K-Centers. A K-Center is any business who wants to accept Karatbars Gold as money. And there's many of them around the world already, and there's going to be a lot more in the next few years. They're rolling them out at rapid rate right now all around the world. This could be gas stations, food stores, doctors, dentists. If there is a currency crisis or a collapse, people will still have needs. They still need food. They might need dental or medical services. They might need gas for their car. Well, a K-Center can actually provide those goods and services because they are set up right now. Today, they're set up to take Karatbars Gold as money. Now, that is not true of any other gold that's being sold out there on the market. There's only a couple of companies that actually put gold into a card, and they copied us. Karatbars was the first to take the 24-karat currency-grade gold and embed it in a card. It's the same size as a credit card, but it's not a credit card. It's a gold card. It's in 1, 2.5, and 5 gram increments. And those cards are able to be transacted at a K-Center. They have readers. They can scan these. Karatbars Gold has 7 security features built into it, blacklight technology, serial numbers. They can scan that card, and they immediately know it's authentic. They don't have to say it. A K-Center can say, okay, Dr. Edward, there's a little challenge with your credit card, and the cash is not working right now because we got a currency crisis. But I can take that gold, and that gold is it's probably going to be worth a lot more than what you spent for it. And you can go ahead and get some gas for your car. You can get medical services here. I take gold as money. That's what the K-Centers are doing. And visionary business people all around the world are realizing there is a pending currency crisis. It could even collapse. And it would be wise for a business to set up a way to take gold as money, because guess what? If there was a crisis and no one could take credit cards or debit cards, but a business could take gold, then they're going to stay in business while all these other companies cannot. They can't function because the currency doesn't work. So
anything that's fictitious, that's fictitious is going to eventually have an end. And speaking of that, our program is too. So Gary, you're going to be on in 1 week at 12 o'clock, right, Pacific time?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, great.
Wonderful.
Thank you for that information, Gary. That's terrific. And, of course, Thomas Jefferson's quotes are always timeless, and they don't change because they were the truth. We're just finding out how true they are today.
Yes. That's right.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Gary, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Okay, that sounds great. It's my honor and privilege to be on your show, Lisa, and I look forward to our next one.
Yes, likewise. Aloha, Gary. Gary's calling from Hawaii. So have a beautiful day, and we will speak soon. And thank you so much. And you're welcome to stay on if you want to and listen to what Dr. Edwards is going to be continuing speaking about in terms of solving life problems. So, Dr. Edward?
Thank you very much,
yes.
Lisa, and I sure appreciate your wisdom, Dr. Edward. You're an amazing guy, and we sure are being blessed by what you're sharing with us here.
Thank you, Gary. Well, we were talking about values, and we were talking about engineering. And Gary has been mentioning about how our current debt system has been created. I mean, originally we did not have debt at all, and it was very difficult for the merchant bankers originally to get a foothold in, but they finally convinced some people and made it happen, you know. Now we have the type of civilization that we have. We have overblown government, which is exactly what the Founding Fathers did not want. And we have, together with that, we have all kinds of systems that are combined to extract your money. We have some very simple words, like, say, for example, privileges, you know. Privileges mean something that's guaranteed by a city or a state. It's not a right, you know. So it's called a privilege to drive. Well, that has nothing to do with your right to freely travel, which is guaranteed in the Constitution. So a privilege is a word, and a word has a meaning, a basis, and a foundation. If we understand the words that we're using, including the legal words that we're using and or the lawful words that we're using, then we know what our values and our principles are based on. Now, what is a principle? A principle structure or a framework that we can use. We can liken that to a human spine. When we have a spine, we have a little bit of flexibility in that spine. That spine keeps us upright, and it enables us, so with the help of our two bones, the two legs that we have, bones that are in our feet, to propel ourselves forward in a forward direction, to keep moving, and to do that for a long period of time. It's a trade-off between two sides, you know. So we have these basic two sides of our character. Let's characterize them as basically the spiritual side, and then we have all of the material or the sensory sides. If we don't have a spirit in our body, that body's not alive, so we can't do anything. Likewise, if the body's not alive, the spirit can't do anything in that body either. So it's a balance between the two of them. To get back to the levels we were talking about, psychologically and physically, physiologically, and metaphysically, we have 5 different bodies. We can call the soul one body if we like. But we have 5 other bodies that are materialistic. At the top level, we have the level of attitudes. Now, this means that if we imagine something along the lines of what, say, The Secret says, or anything that we can manage to drum up, we're going to set up a whole series of paradigms in motion that follow then that attitude. So we can say that attitudes and imagination are all the same. It's a very high level, extremely creative level, and therefore extremely dangerous, because everything that we create, we must then be responsible to and for and with. Underneath that, we have a mental conceptual level, and this is also extremely powerful. Whatever you imagine and create, you can form principles around, and you can activate then at the higher mental level. And then after that, you develop things at the next lower level, which many people would call the causal level or intellectual level. It's a level at which you begin to do your final development with respect to ethics. And there's a lot of science that goes on at the level. So science has to do with functionality, function. And if we can understand the functions that we are creating as a subset of principles, then we can do our engineering. So this is the level, the median level at which all of this happens. This is the level of intellect. Underneath that, we have the emotional, social, religious, habitual levels. And at this level, we get ourselves very much bound up with something. A lot of people think that when you die and when you go to heaven, some people call this the astral plane, other people call it paradise, Valhalla. There are a lot of names for it in the various religions. They think that when you go there, it's a nice, easy place to live. Well, in a way, it's correct. In another way, it's full of a whole lot of notions, religions, little perspectives that don't enable us to make progress. Finally, at the end, we have the physical plane, which the Sanskrit people call village in their language. Very small place, according to them, where the other planes have so many more options, availabilities, opportunities, ways of seeing things. They're much more vast, even though the physical plane seems large to us. All right, so we're talking about engineering. We're talking about values. Now, there's a principle that works on all of our lower levels, and that is the principle of cause equals effect, okay? It might not seem like that to us. It may take time to properly manifest, but it does. Like, say, for example, if you frack ground near a well, that's going to break up the layers and the strata of minerals that are around, and it's going to disturb them. It's going to float a lot of minerals free. If, of course, you're using, as they do these days, a lot of very artificial and very dangerous toxic chemicals to do the fracking with, then this is all put into the soil. So after that, then, it becomes more free to flow because the levels have all been cracked and broken. Our psyche is very much like this, actually. And of course, then when the water gets into the wells, then and the substances that they've done the fracking with, then we no longer have clean wells, and we either have to buy bottled water from some other company, or we have to go a long, long ways away. Most people don't live in mountainous countries like I live in, where we have the water coming straight out of the hills, and it's absolutely pure. We have nothing to worry about. So the rest of the U.S. is susceptible to all of the materials and chemicals and attitudes and the emotions of the people around. So, with these last few minutes then, we want to talk about how we can engineer a better life. Gary was talking about financial foundation and financial stability, okay? What is stability?
Yes.
What is continuity? Continuity is basically the freedom from fear, where you can schedule your life and where you can get things going on a consistent basis, and you can build on that. It's the same as we would build a building, a religious institution, an institution of any kind. One brick is built after another. The bricks are the functions, and the main supports for the building would be called the principles, the spine of the building. Now, when we understand how things are created, like say, for example, if we understand how our money system was engineered, we understand what the true values in back of that originally once were, then knowledge is power. We have an ability to work within that properly because we become conscious of that rather than subconscious. Just where people are throwing their values and their engineering systems at us, and we don't understand the engineering. Well, Thomas Jefferson pointed out many of the things with respect to social engineering, social values, because they were creating a united collection of states. And he was pointing out some things in the spiritual realms as well. In other words, karma, cause and effect. Okay. Now, if we do what we do in a large science view, and by the way, karma is a word that I like to use, and the Indian people understand it partly. In America, it basically has a bad name because Americans think, oh, well, that means I'm going to be responsible for every little bad deed that I do and what I create. And the answer is absolutely. We live in the constraints of a science of nature. Karma is that science of nature. It just simply means all of science, not just a tiny little part. We have had many mystic saints throughout the ages that have told us about this. The Buddhas have done a fair amount of promulgating of information about what karma really is, and it is truly serious. Now, many of us are vegans. I am. I have to be. The contracts that I made with respect to gaining the health information that I have, which have enabled me to create extrapolations and to do such things as to create advanced integrated polarity, that all comes out of the basis of values. In other words, not harming life. In Sanskrit, we call this ahimsa, and that means not causing harm. This is exactly what a physician is supposed to do, too. According to Hippocrates, we are not supposed to prescribe any substance, and this is exactly what the allopaths do today. They're doing it all the time. They're prescribing synthetic, patented chemicals that are foreign to the human body and which kill our liver. And you can just read the long list of everything that these drugs do, and you know what they're doing. So they're not necessarily trying to hide it either. But if you subscribe to their system and you go down that road, you're going to suffer the same effects that they have. Just as a very quick mention for those people of you who have read parts of the Bible, at the end, it's saying in the book of Revelations that there will be a lot of sorcery happening on the face of the earth in these later days. Well, the original Greek word, the word that was translated as sorcery, is pharma. And what we have now is we have big pharma and big money running us. And this is synthetic. So is it sorcery? Absolutely. People are being fed little toxic pills. Chemotherapy is the worst of all of them. I mean, it says it's dangerous on the label. You know, you have to wear masks, gloves, all kinds of stuff to administer that. It's toxic. Everything else that they're doing and patenting is non-natural. Why? Because they can't patent the natural stuff, or at least we hope they never will be able to. They have been trying to patent the DNA, you know. So we are seen as objects to be manipulated by these people for their own benefit, for money. Why? Because their values are considerably less than perhaps our own values are with respect to our family, or our values with respect to intellectual ethics, or values with respect to spirit. The mystic saints are exactly the opposite of all of this stuff. Yes, they're human. They have their people that they work with, and they train from another human that they learn from. And then they have this to share. But if we haven't done our apprentice work, then we really don't have any right to speak about it. We can tell about situations where we've made mistakes, and we can say, okay, well, I did this, it didn't work. And also in the situations where we've been trained and we did something right, we can say, well, okay, I've been able to do this on a consistent basis, like put gas in the car and the car goes. Okay, that's fine. But in order to really make progress, we have to jump out of the 5 lower shells, because there's something bigger than that actually created it. All of the 5 lower levels and all of the parts of our psyche and our personality were created so that we could learn some lessons. I like to say that we're here to learn to clean up our act. The more simple that we manage to be able to motivate ourselves to become, then the easier our life is. So we're talking about the solutions to all life's problems, and we're not going to be able to get into the details and the specifics in a particular interview. We can only go so far with that. But we can lay the background. We can say it's about values. We can say it's about ethics. We can say it's about principles. And we can say it's about education, because all of these lower worlds are for soul to get an education so that it can eventually graduate. And you don't graduate, you don't move up in levels like you don't get to climb Mount Shasta, for example, unless you put one foot in front of the other, you raise it up, and then you clamp down on the front foot, drag your back foot to make another step. This is effort. We have to make the effort, because without the effort, we don't have any results, and also without surrendering the glue that has become our personality and our emotions and our particular individual unique system of ethics, without surrendering a past viewpoint, we can't move. It's just like we can have a huge ship, a Queen Mary that's tied up to the dock. Unless we let those ropes loose, then we're not able to travel anywhere at all. We're stuck. This is the way people are mostly in life here at this level. But we have a very great benefit that in this human life, we have an ability to make progress. Yes, we have to put out some effort, and yes, we have to find a school to learn from. Are these schools available? Yes, they are. Can we choose to be a part of these schools? Yes. Do we have to sacrifice and give up some things in order to do that? Well, yes, of course. We want to get rid of the congestion and the confusion that causes such things as sickness and illness in the human body. When the human body is clean, it functions well. When the human body has a whole lot of mucus in it, then it doesn't. So on that level, then, let me mention another book that you can go to look at. Professor Arnold Ehret wrote this book a long time ago, and he was slated to die from kidney disease when he was a teenager. And he didn't like that prognosis, so he scrambled around and he grabbed everything that he could, and he tried to learn and grow and develop, and he decided to become a fruitarian. Well, guess what? Instead of the doctors telling him he had 6 months to a year and a half to live, then he became a marathon runner, and he lived until he was 56. I'd say that's a difference. So he didn't succumb to the system. He decided we could call it a soul level perhaps, from an intentional level, that he just wasn't going to die, and this wasn't his time to die. So he put together the ethics and the engineering that was responsible to clean up his kidneys and give them a simple life, and he sacrificed all the rest of the meat eating and everything else that he was doing, and his system then rebuilt, repaired itself. So we have DNA. DNA is a miraculous thing. It's absolutely amazing. We have several levels of what you might call 3D holographic programming on top of the DNA. The scientists are just beginning to understand this. We can't just go gene splicing, because the whole thing is a hologram picture. And if we start pulling out some parts of it, it's going to mess us up. And we're now discovering. Let me mention something really simple, because some of you won't have heard this. We have grains here on this planet. We have wheat, grains I wanted to say, but we have wheat, we have barley, we have triticale, we have rye, we have many different grains. But almost everything that we're producing in terms of crops has been hybridized. And not just a little hybridized, but highly hybridized. Essentially, we're dealing with genetically modified organisms that the human brain has decided in its wisdom that is really, really smart, and it can and it should modify what nature has done for us. And then we should ingest these new systems that the mind has created. These things are toxic. So along the line of books, let me mention one other. There's a Dr. Davis that has written a book called Wheat Belly. I very highly recommend that book. That will show you what we lower-class, imperfect, unenlightened human minds are able to create. And it's not just one crop. It's not just corn or soy or wheat or something else. It's the whole ball, everything. All of the crops, almost all the crops that we eat on a daily basis have been so genetically modified that they don't bear a strict electrochemical and biophysical resemblance to their original crops, and they have been modified so far that they are causing all of us damage. We have another famous book, Perlmutter, a book called Grain Brain. I also recommend that one. I didn't come across these books until relatively recently. You know, we have a lot of talk about gluten and gluten allergies and all of this. But what we have done is we have engineered synthetic grains that are destroying us. All right, just a few minutes left. Let me tell you a couple of things that you can do. If you clean up your life, if you clean up your diet, if you start being willing to learn lessons, if you give up your rigid, stuck viewpoint in everything that you think is already valuable and thinking that you already know the truth, at that point, you leave your awareness open for so many other different paths and so many other different possibilities. Some of you listening will have already chosen a path that's more on the higher side. You know, you might not be as strict as saints were. You might not be absolute vegans, and you might not be eating raw food yet. But it's still, you have a higher system of ethics and awareness, and you try not to do harm. Others of you listening will still be eating meat, and you're going to think that just because you ingest long-chain animal fats in your body, that's not going to clog up your capillaries that are so small that a red blood cell has a hard time trying to get through. Well, you can imagine all kinds of things in your mind, but that doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't even mean it's true for you. You will suffer. So, medicine has a lot of things that it has to tell us, and I generally say that regular modern medicine is meathead medicine by meatheads for meatheads, and it profits the meatheads. The UN, by the way, 80% of the subsidies that they give to their countries is for meat consumption. Why? Because it's going to kill you off. Cellular respiration won't happen when you have long-chain animal products floating around in your body that your body doesn't know how to get rid of properly. Or milk, which does the same thing. Homogenized, pasteurized milk will go straight through the lining because it's been homogenized down into tiny fat globules that didn't exist before, and then it gets into your arteries, and then you get plaque because they build up where they're never supposed to be there in the first place. And then clogs your regular capillaries as well, and so your whole respiratory system is clogged down. That means you don't get oxygen, so that means you can no longer be inspired, and so you might as well be smoking, right? You're just under the merchant banker systems, and you're paying off your mortgage, which is another big scam, which we can save for another time. All right. Do we have any questions, Lisa?
No, we do not have any callers or questions coming in. And you have another 7 minutes, so please go on. And in the next... and listeners, Dr. Edward will be joining us again because this is just the start of our conversations as we guide ourselves forward to healing and solving our problems.
Now, as we wind down here, then let me say that those of you who have questions, you're welcome to contact me at my email address. I'll give that out verbally. It should be on Blog Talk Radio as well. It's pretty simple. It's edward.norman, and I think I can trust that I don't have to spell that out for you. And then a dot at the end of Norman, and then 2 initials, D as in doctor, M as in man, at gmail.com. So edward.norman.dm at gmail.com. You're welcome to write me with your questions. Those people who are really serious about making progress and growth and development, as I was, are welcome to say that. You can tell me what the problems are in your life. I'd be happy to hear about them, and I can explain the principles that have caused those problems and can also cause a remission of your troubles and provide a solution for them if you're open to that. I deal with people on a regular basis, including very, very serious students that I have for life. So you can fall anywhere from wondering about a particular question about a particular food to wanting to go on forever and move past this level into which they have become so bound. I have many different techniques and many different ways of addressing what we need to do to open up ourselves to a much higher awareness than what we've got. We're here to reform the materials that we were born with and to make them better, not necessarily to feed them synthetic food and synthetic drugs and to basically cause an end to our family strain. We can, by the way, severely damage our DNA permanently in 4 generations, which is, to all intents and purposes, absolutely irreversible. However, if you know a person like me, we might be able to do something about it. And if you turn your life around so that you are willing to live a pure life and a very clean life and a simple life, you can build and you can permanently change your DNA and your family's DNA in 6 generations. So, as I say, that is permanent, and that stays with you and with your family forever. Families are a good way of looking at things. They're part of how we reincarnate ourselves, our souls, our personalities, and our awareness in another form. They're also a great chance for us to learn how to give and receive, and this is a wonderful thing. So if we look at things from 7 generations, as the Native Americans used to say here, then we have some perspectives that we didn't have before. I want to say about religions again, if any of you are tempted to go around and look at religions, do that. My experience when I was about 19 years old, looking at the spectrum of what perspectives that they had that were religious, that bordered on the spiritual, broadened my awareness. I had my original connection, but it broadened my awareness in terms of lower level systems in how to approach things. This can be a very valuable study. If you look around at currencies and you look how they are created, how that type of value system is made, everything from ownership of property to how we exchange on a daily basis, this changes everything. If we change our karma so that we make sure that everything we do is transparent and open, then we don't have confusion and we don't have to feel like we're cheating anyone and they don't have to feel like they're cheated by us. That means that we get a decent reputation and then we can go forward in life. This is a very personal thing. So when we have a good reputation, then we tend to build on that because we have self-confidence. Here's another thing I like to say a lot. I like to ask a question, where does confidence come from? Most people can't answer that. It's like the question, what are emotions? Most people can't answer that either. But with respect to confidence, where does it come from? There are a number of different ways of answering that question, but here's the one that I like. Confidence comes from doing the right thing at the right time, at the right place, with the right people, in the right way, for the right reason, for the right length of time, until you achieve the right results. Now, when you're able to consistently do this, and we're talking about science here, which is how all of the worlds are created to respond and manufactured, when we do the right thing and we get the right results, which is something that my teacher in Sweden used to like to say a lot and still does, when we do the right thing, then we get the right results. Now, if we're not getting the right results in our life, if we're sick, if we're dull, if we're depressed, if we're bored, there's something wrong with us. Our attitude is incorrect, so we've steered our ship into the corner of the world that the doldrums and the depression exists. If we want to move away, we're going to have to turn our ship of soul and our boat of our psyche around so that it points in a different direction. We're going to have to hoist ourselves and pick up some wind from a different source, right? Okay? There's no reason for you to be sick or depressed or in a low-energy state or be diagnosed with multiple chemical sensitivity or fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue. There is no reason for this if it's not science. And if it is science, then as long as you rise yourself above the level of depression that you're at and actually take a look at things, which you can do by eating the right foods, which is something that we'll get into later. When you start doing the right thing, you're going to get the right results. Now, some people say, oh, well, I can't do this. Okay. Can you lift a fig to your mouth? Figs are highly alkalinizing, highly alkalinizing. Can you stop to drink milk? Okay. Can you stop to eat meat? You know, if your hand is reaching out and it's stuffing these things in your mouth, then you're the person that's guilty. You're the person that's to blame. Now, if you want to change the results, you don't like the results that nature is giving you because it's trying to teach you a hard lesson, okay, fine. Tell yourself that you don't like the results. Feel that you don't like the results and start getting into it and make a motion in a 180-degree direction. Start getting simple. Throw all the stuff out of your life and your mind that you don't need. Clean up your life, clean up your ethics, clean up your heart, clean up your soul, and be a real person. And don't do it some other time, because the only time that we can make a motion, the only time we can make a decision, the only time we can make our future is right now. So, good luck if you need it or you think it's going to be of any use. Follow the principles, move forward, pay off, and they will work for you if you work with them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Norman. We're going to have you back here very shortly. And again, listeners, you can reach Dr. Norman at edward.norman.dm@gmail.com. And listeners, join us tomorrow, July 30th, from 12 to 2 p.m. Pacific Time, when Charles Slavik, author of The Origin of Christianity, and Mark Emery, founder of the Lighthouse Law Club, join us. And Sunday, July 31st, from 12 to 2 Pacific Time, when we visit with scientist Russell Anderson, who will be speaking to us live from the 2016 Tesla Tech Extraordinary Technologies Conference in Albuquerque with Professor John R. Searle. And to become part of the Utopian Reality Slope Earth Aid mission, contact White Buffalo Nation at gmail.com and visit wbnslope.weebly.com and our White Buffalo Nation Facebook page, and support the Slope mission at gofundme.com/slope. Your contribution helps keep this mission going as we work to get solutions to all the people and life on Earth. Thank you again so much, Dr. Edward Norman.
Well, thank you. That was great. I know it's just a beginning. I'm sorry that we weren't able to cover more ground, but this takes time. Our radio program will be archived so people can come back and listen to this as many times as they like, and it serves as a foundation for everything that we're going to do in the future. And Elisa and I and quite a few members on our team, we are all about collaboration. The more that we put our efforts together, the better our society will be. Remember in the old days how we used to have barnstorming? Well, actually, I'm using the word I know, but I'm calling it that. You'd have a bunch of people when you moved into a community, and they'd all pull together, and they'd raise a barn in a week, for example, or a house, right?
Right.
We don't do that so much anymore. Now we can. The greatest resource that we have on Earth as human beings is the fact that we're human beings, and that means we can cooperate. Now, if we can cooperate at high levels of value, we're going to add value into our lives, and it's not hard to do. We just have to unlock our hearts just a little bit and start caring. When we care about ourselves, when we put our oxygen mask on first, we make sure we're alive and we're awake and we can stand on our 2 feet. You know, we're to the extent that we need, and we're drinking water properly, clean water, by the way, very important subject. Okay, we can move forward and we can cooperate. Please don't allow the world to drag you down in the way that it does. Okay, yeah, I know it doesn't look right, it doesn't look healthy. Don't allow that to continue to happen to you. If you don't want it to happen to you, engineer it so it doesn't. There's nobody that's more responsible for you than you. So start making the right choices, and if you don't know what the right choices are, start reading and start finding out. As I say, I'm available. If you have questions, then go right ahead, send me an email, and then we can talk on the phone also. Anytime you have questions, it's a divine opportunity to get the answers. Questions and answers are equal sides of the same equation. All you have to do is rotate them around and see them from a different perspective. So questions are wonderful things. Keep having them, keep exercising, see where they go, and don't stop until you've got an answer.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. I know I so appreciate you in my life. And now we're going to listen to...
Go ahead. We just have a little delay on this line.
Yes. We're going to close with a song from one of our slope artists, John Franklin Fletcher, called Diamond in the Sky, which speaks, I hope, to all of us. And thank you again, Dr. Edward. I look forward to speaking on the air again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are the diamond in the sky. No two diamonds are alike. You are created to be unique. Bring out your true self. Diamond in the sky, be one with your true self. Diamond in the sky, be one with your true self. Make use of your human emotions. Turn anger into action. Turn frustration into making progress. Diamond in the sky, be one with your true self. Diamond in the sky, be one with your true self. God has given you the ultimate GPS in the form of your emotions. Navigate life wisely. Diamond in the sky, be one with your true self. Diamond in the sky, be one with your true self. In my humble opinion, you cannot reach your true human potential until you realize your inner true self, one with the divine. Diamond in the sky, be one with your true self. Diamond in the sky, be one with your true self. Winding down this song, you are the diamond in the sky. No two diamonds are alike. You are created to be unique. Bring out your true self. Diamond in the sky, be one with your true self. Diamond in the sky, be one with your true self. You are the diamond in the sky.
Go to FoliumPX.com or call 855-365-4867. Why? Well, if you live along the coast, you see the water pollution as you grow closer and closer to any major city. You notice that the water color changes as you get closer to the city. Why? Well, because you know it's pollution, and it's water pollution. The pollution in the water ranges from debris all the way to runoff from the rain, which includes heavy metals from the smog. Heavy metals such as lead and arsenic and mercury, all of this is coming from the pollution from cars and from industrial facilities. Go to foliumpx.com or call 855-365-4867.
Thanks for joining us, listeners. Together, let's save life on planet Earth. That's yours, mine, and all of ours. On and in the land, waters, and air. Again, thanks for joining us. Till next time, this is Lisa Wolfer Slope. Save and sustain life on planet Earth, Earth Eggs. Let's give the Earth and all her children freedom from fear, lack, and degradation, and bring a utopian reality now.
Fios is not cable. We're wired differently, which means you can get the fastest internet available with equal upload and download speeds from 50 to 500 megs. So you can upload 200 photos before your favorite song is finished. Click the ad and switch to Fios today to get our best offer ever. Fios is not cable. We're wired differently, which means you can get the fastest internet available with equal upload and download speeds from 50 to 500 megs. So you can upload 200 photos before your favorite song is finished. Click the ad and switch to Fios today to get our best offer ever.